Folks, let me tell you something. The United States of America just fought a war with Iran, and the President of the United States is calling it a skirmish. Now, I don't know about you, but I have been in this chair, the Attila the Hun Chair, right here behind the Golden EIP Microphone, for a long, long time, and I have watched presidents tie themselves in rhetorical knots, trying to make wars sound smaller than they were. Vietnam was a police action. Iraq was a kinetic military operation at one point, or something to that effect. These people love their euphemisms. But Donald Trump looks at a war with Iran, service members coming home in flag-draped caskets, and says, I call it a skirmish. And you know what? I think I love it. I think that is the most wonderfully defiant, most magnificently unbothered thing a sitting president has said in my lifetime. While the rest of official Washington is doing what it always does, wringing its hands, scheduling the congressional hearings, booking the cable news panels, Trump walks into a rally in Georgia and basically says, yeah, we handled it. Now we are going to get into all of this today. The skirmish with Iran, the dignified transfer of 4 American heroes who gave everything, and what is happening in this country as the left, meanwhile, is running around trying to convince New York City that the Prime Minister of Israel is a war criminal, while the squad can't even tell Jewish Democrats apart from one another. We have quite a program for you today, my friends. I'm Rick LeBow. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about Iran, the ongoing conflict, and a president who is not losing a moment's sleep over any of it, which drives the drive-by media to the absolute brink of a collective nervous breakdown. And I find that deeply satisfying. So here is where we are. American service members have been killed, 4 of them, in Jordan and Iraq. And President Trump attended their dignified transfer. He was there, on the tarmac, saluting these heroes, calling them what they are, great Americans who gave their lives in service to this country. And I want to say something about that before we go any further. Whatever your politics, whatever you think about the conflict, those 4 young men and women deserve to be honored. And Trump was there. He showed up. He did what a president is supposed to do in that moment. Now, what does Trump do the very same day he attends a dignified transfer? He goes to a rally in Georgia and tells the crowd that the United States is winning what he calls a skirmish with Iran. And the press, they have been losing their collective minds over this framing. How can he call it a skirmish? We have casualties. There is active conflict. And so on and so forth. But my friends, I want you to think about this for a moment. What would the alternative have looked like? If Barack Obama, if good old Barry had presided over this same conflict, you know exactly what would have happened. We would have had a nationally televised address, solemn as a funeral, Barry reading slowly off the teleprompter about the complex and deeply challenging geopolitical moment we find ourselves in, and how we must remain committed to de-escalation, and how he has directed his national security team to pursue robust diplomatic channels, every syllable designed to sound serious while committing to absolutely nothing. And the press would have called it measured. They would have called it statesmanlike. Trump calls it a skirmish and says we're winning, and it's a scandal. Now here's the thing, folks. I'm not here to pretend there isn't real danger in what's going on with Iran. 4 American families just lost someone. That is not nothing. That is the heaviest possible cost. But let's talk about the bigger picture here, because the drive-by media sure isn't going to do it. Iran has been at war with the United States in practice for decades. They just usually had the luxury of doing it through proxies. Hezbollah, various Iraqi militias, the Houthis, so they could always say, "Not us, we don't know what you're talking about." The U.S. would get hit, some American soldiers would die, and previous administrations would respond with sternly worded statements and maybe a targeted strike here or there, and then go right back to trying to negotiate with the mullahs. That was the cycle. That was the routine. Pay them, negotiate with them, pretend they're a normal government that can be reasoned with. Trump is not doing that, and whatever you think of the skirmish framing, what you cannot deny is that Iran is on defense right now. They are the ones responding to American threats. Trump told them explicitly that if they keep it up, we're hitting bridges and power plants. Now, that is not the language of a man who is losing. And the people of Iran, and I have to say this because it matters, the people of Iran are not our enemy. The regime is, the mullahs, the Revolutionary Guard, the apparatus of terror that has oppressed 90 million people for close to 50 years. There is a story that rarely gets told, which is that the Iranian people have been living under a boot since 1979, and many of them would love nothing more than to be rid of this government. But the regime has made its choice. And when you make the choice to export terror, to kill American soldiers, to build a nuclear weapons program while telling the world it's for peaceful purposes, Eventually, there are consequences. And under this administration, there are. Now, Zelensky is talking to Witkoff and Kushner about ending the war in Ukraine. Trump's got his people working that front too. And over in Cyprus, their energy minister is going on record saying that Trump's engagement on energy security is, quote, vital to the future of the West. You know what that tells me? It tells me that the countries who actually depend on stable energy markets, not the green energy fantasy land that Brussels has been building for the past 20 years, but real, physical, affordable energy, those countries are looking at Trump's America and saying, finally. The Cyprus energy minister understands something that the editorial board of the New York Times apparently cannot grasp, which is that energy security is national security. Full stop. You want to know how Putin was able to hold Europe hostage for years? Because Europe listened to the environmentalist wackos and the globalist bureaucrats and decided to dismantle their own energy infrastructure in the name of saving the planet. And then they were shocked when Russia turned off the gas. Energy independence is not an optional luxury. It is the single most important strategic asset a nation can have. And we have it, and we are finally using it, and the rest of the world is noticing. So when I hear Trump say skirmish, what I hear underneath that word is a president who is not rattled, who is not going to be baited into the kind of hand-wringing, UN-approved coalition of the willing paralysis that has defined American foreign policy for most of my adult life. Now, will it all work out perfectly? I don't know. Nobody knows. But I will tell you this, and don't doubt me. Iran's leadership was not afraid of the last administration. They are afraid of this one. And in a world full of very dangerous people, that is not nothing. That is, in fact, quite a lot. So as we keep watching this unfold, and we will right here on Rush Hour, just remember what you're actually looking at. You are watching an American president refuse to play the game the way the establishment thinks the game is supposed to be played. And that is exactly why they hate him. It has always been exactly why they hate him. All right, the roundup. Let's move. Quick hits, 3 stories, all of them worth your attention. First up, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman from the Bronx who has somehow become the spiritual leader of a significant chunk of the Democrat Party. God help us. She is now claiming that the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, would essentially merge parts of the United States military with the Israeli Defense Forces. A Republican colleague told her bluntly to stop stoking Jew hatred. Now, look, I want to be fair here, because fairness is what we do on this program, with half our brain tied behind our back just to make it fair. Sandy Ocasio, I call her Sandy Ocasio, or sometimes I call her the Congresswoman from Havana, which is where her politics really come from. She is technically smart enough to know that this claim is not true. Which raises the question of whether she actually believes it or whether she is, as I suspect, doing what left-wing activists have been doing for the last couple years, which is using the language of military policy to dress up what is fundamentally a "we don't like Israel" position in something that sounds like a substantive objection. And meanwhile, this is the part that just puts the cherry on top. Meanwhile, over in Squad HQ, Representative Summer Lee apparently confused New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro in some online spat. These are two different Jewish Democrats, folks. Two different guys, different states, different offices. Oh, but I definitely know what's in a 1,800-page defense bill and which parts constitute a merger with a foreign military. Can't tell two Jewish members of her own party apart, but she is confident in her reading of military authorization language. Remarkable, remarkable. And Gottheimer, who is himself a Democrat, a moderate one, give him some credit, basically called them out for it, and they got burned by their own voting records in the process. This is what happens when your entire political identity is organized around a coalition of grievances rather than any coherent policy vision. You start mixing people up. You start making things up. And eventually, your own colleagues have to publicly point out that you don't know what you're talking about. It's a very sophisticated operation they've got going over there. Story number 2. Jack Smith. Oh, my friends. Jack Smith, and I want to be careful here because the all-knowing, all-sensing, all-seeing Maha Ricky has been predicting for a very long time that this whole business would eventually turn back around on the people who started it. Jim Jordan has sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice against Jack Smith, accusing him of making false statements to Congress about accessing lawmakers' text messages. Now, for those of you who followed the whole Jack Smith saga, this was the special counsel appointed to prosecute Donald Trump with the full fury and enthusiasm of a man who very much wanted to make history as the guy who put a president in prison. This is a significant development. Because one of the things Jack Smith apparently told Congress didn't match what actually happened with those text messages. And Jim Jordan, who is not a man who forgets things, is now making sure the Justice Department has to at least look at it. The people who wrapped themselves in the flag of law and order and the rule of law and protecting democracy from Donald Trump may have some explaining to do about their own conduct. I know, I'm shocked too. Don't doubt me, folks. I said this day would come. And finally, and I know this one is going to get some of you riled up, which is fine. You should be riled up. Abolish ICE rioters. Still at it. Workers at Delaney Hall, a migrant detention facility, are saying that the protesters outside have been harassing them personally, damaging their property, targeting their cars. These are regular working people, guards, administrative staff, people who show up every day to do a job. And they are being harassed and having their stuff wrecked by people who think that enforcing immigration law is a moral atrocity. Now, I want you to notice something. When these rioters do this at a detention center, when they intimidate workers, when they damage cars in the parking lot, it is covered, if it is covered at all, as a protest. The drive-by media describes them as activists, immigration advocates, Meanwhile, one ICE officer gets referred for a disciplinary review, and Democrats are calling press conferences about oversight and accountability and body cameras. The people enforcing the laws that Congress passed are under scrutiny. The people harassing their families in the parking lot are advocates. That is the world the left has constructed, and I just want to make sure everyone understands exactly what it is they're looking at. These are not peaceful people standing on a corner with signs. They are targeting individuals. They are damaging property, and they will face approximately zero consequences because the cause is considered just by the right people in the right newsrooms. My friends, before I let you go today, and I do not let you go easily, you know that, I never do, I want to come back to those 4 service members for just a moment, because in all the noise, the Iran framing debate, the Sandy Ocasio NDAA theater, the Jack Smith criminal referral, it is easy to let the real thing slide past. And the real thing today is that 4 Americans came home in a way that no family ever wants their son or daughter to come home, draped in the flag they served under. Trump was there. He saluted them. He called them great heroes. And whatever you think of Donald Trump, and I know most of you think quite a lot of him, and rightly so, the image of a president showing up for that moment is the right image. It is what we should expect, and it is what we got. The world is a dangerous place, my friends. It has always been a dangerous place. The mullahs in Tehran have never been our friends. The people who want open borders and no immigration enforcement have never been on the side of the American worker. And the drive-by media has never, not once, been on the side of the truth when the truth was inconvenient for the narrative. But America endures. It endures because of people like those 4 service members. It endures because there are still people willing to stand up and say what is true, even when the entire apparatus of elite opinion is lined up against them. That is what we try to do here, every single day, from behind the Golden EIP Microphone, here on the Excellence in Podcasting Network. I'm Rick LeBow. This has been Rush Hour, same time tomorrow, if they let us back on.